No matter what people think, polygamy mostly breeds hate and envy. Monogamy is still a safer option for long life for the men and for peace to reign in the home. You know, this Uganda lady, she narrated this story very well. How her father brought in a second wife. She titled it "The Night Her Father Brought in a Second Wife," and everything changed. Even with the way she narrated this story, you could hear the pain in her voice, in her mind, and as she's speaking these words, the pain is still in those words that she's narrating. She has not forgotten any bit of what happened that night and how she felt, the devastation the second wife brought to them as children, the pain and the mental health torture that their father brought in that night to them without even preparing them, to say, okay, I'm bringing in a second wife. So I want you all to listen to this, and you can imagine what Edochie's children are going through. You will just announce and spring up a second wife to your children, and you are imposing that second wife. You're imposing that side chick as a second wife on your children. My people, I want you all to listen to this, and I will come back and we'll talk more on this second wife issue. All right, my people, when I listen to this Uganda lady talk about a story of being
my parents' favorite
second wife.
I used to walk out with my dad for outings.
Let's start it from the beginning.
Visited me so many times, even when I moved into boarding school.
My people.
Even when I go to university.
When they try to do this recording, and they try to record that from
everyone wanted to
beginning, they get us.
I am the first child of my parents.
All right, good.
And I had a happy childhood. My parents loved me. And many times I tell people that I must be my parents' favorite. I used to walk out with my dad for outings. He visited me so many times, even when I moved into boarding school. Even when I got to university, I walked arm in arm with my dad. That was weird because everyone wanted to be independent at the university, but I came with my dad. Growing up, my dad was really nice to us. He would come back by 5 p.m. to tell us stories, riddles about our culture and traditions. Even when we went to some of the best schools in Uganda, my dad insisted that we must speak our traditional language. We would not speak English back home. Well, like some people look at it as a privilege. I remember particularly something I picked as a child. My dad told me that when addressing men, you need to look at them straight in their eyes. If you're shaking their hands, make it a firm handshake. So I grew up strong and firm and confident at quite an early age. However, my world changed when I was about 9 or 10. In the year 1997, on the 24th of December. As is tradition, during Christmas season, we go back to the village in the countryside and we pack up all our Sunday best clothes, all of our food, and just go out there to celebrate with our grandparents, aunties and uncles and everyone else. So it's a really good time because as a child, you're looking forward to playing and learning new games and sharing what you learned from the school year and your report cards and, get all of this applause from everyone. So when we got in the village, towards the evening, we were supposed to go and join the rest of the extended family for dinner and also go through what would be happening on the 25th, at what time we would take breakfast, go to church and all. And I heard from some of my cousins that my dad was going to introduce a new mother to us. Please understand that polygamy is legal in Uganda, and some of my relatives had several wives, but not my dad. And you also need to understand that my dad was relatively wealthy, but my mom had 5 girls. He needed an heir, someone to take after him and inherit his property. In our culture, a girl cannot inherit property. So I was confused. We have a new mother. My parents are an educated lot. What does that mean? And I didn't know how my mom would take it. And there's a bit of tension. So when it got to dinner time, my mom asked us to get into a house. She closed the house and gave us strict instructions not to open the door. Well, we had not eaten, we had traveled a long way. I mean, we can't speak to our cousins, we won't see their dresses. What's this? Anyway, I was sleeping in my room that night. She turned out all the lights, and I could hear her pacing in the hallway to the front door. My room was just adjacent to the front door. And I was wondering what's going on. But anyway, I could brush it off and be like, okay, my mom is born again. She is a very radical Christian, so she was, in my opinion, I thought she was praying and casting out demons, or, making sure that the other lady does not make it to our doorstep. Faith in action, strongly doing that. So I kept wondering what's going on, but my baby sisters went to sleep. And I just kept hearing her moving in the hallway. Eventually at about, I think a little after 9 p.m., my dad and his army of brothers, he had lots of them because my grandfather had about 6 wives as well. So there were very many brothers. They came towards our home with their new wife. I think they were escorting him to usher in his wife into the home. And when they approached the front door, my dad pounded the door. Open the door! He started screaming. My mom was quiet. In the dead of the night, everyone is quiet. And I was wondering what's going to happen. Open the door, he kept screaming. No sound. So his brothers joined in, screaming, Joy, open that door! Open that door! She couldn't open. Then he moved to my window, my room, and tapped and called out, Prima, can you open the door? So I got up and went to the door. And just as soon as I was about to clutch the doorknob, my mom shouted, Prima, do not open that door. I was mortified. I didn't know what was out there, for it was dark. And my mom was tough and a bad cop in the home. If I did anything, I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me. And I didn't know what was happening to my dad out there. So I was just stuck and confused between the door and my parents exchanging across. Well, my dad had the shout at me from outside and he started screaming. My mom was quiet. In the dead of the night, everyone is quiet. And I was wondering what's going to happen. Open the door, he kept screaming. No sound. So his brothers joined in, screaming, Joy, open that door! Open that door! She couldn't open. Then he moved to my window, my room, and tapped and called out, Prima, can you open the door? So I got up and went to the door. And just as soon as I was about to clutch the doorknob, my mom shouted, Prima, do not open that door. I was mortified. I didn't know what was out there, for it was dark. And my mom was tough and a bad cop in the home. If I did anything, I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me. And I didn't know what was happening to my dad out there. So I was just stuck and confused between the door and my parents exchanging across. Well, my dad had the shout at me from outside, and alongside his brothers, they burst into the door and broke it open and got in. And they had a very bitter exchange. And I was just looking. My dad had his brothers with him, and they were, of course, cheering him. And My mom was just crying. And I remember clearly my dad telling my mom that this is my home. I can do what I want. If you do not want to stay, pack your bags and leave. And my mom kept saying, I contributed to this wealth. I contributed to the construction of this house. What becomes of me? And he said, you can take the roof and leave. I was in shock. I had never seen my dad angry. I had never seen my dad express so much frustration and anger. And the next day we packed our bags and left. He didn't come after us. Today, almost 2 decades later, I'm a human rights lawyer, and I've specialized in strategic litigation, which involves providing free legal services and challenging systems. I looked at the system of patriarchy and how it envisioned women in our community as less than the men, as having men being entitled and the men not. So I have devoted my work litigation, which involves providing free legal services and challenging systems. I looked at the system of patriarchy and how it envisioned women in our community as less than the men, as having men being entitled and the men not. So I have devoted my work and career towards supporting men to get women to access justice in our community. Thank you.
My people, you guys, you heard her story, right? Wow, what some men, just because they want to satisfy their libido, what they bring, the pain and the torture and the mental health issue that they bring to their family, to their young children. Listening to this young woman tell her story, you can still hear the pain in her voice. You can still hear that pain, that she's still feeling that pain. She recounts that story as if it just happened. Now, wow, most of you people didn't understand why she's telling this story. She literally told the story because she want to heal, and also because she want to contribute to women's pain in a positive way. She wants a situation where when a woman contributes to a marriage, just like DPA lawyer said, he said, if you buy cement, if you buy ₦1, anything you spend, keep it, save it. She said her mother contributed to building her father's wealth. But what did the man say to her? Take the roof and leave, because the man knew very well that the woman could not take the roof and leave. So my fellow queens, make una dey put una name for the house. Make una dey put una name. Make una dey make sure say una name e dey that house when una dey help una husband dey build. If you did una name no dey, make una make sure say una pikin name na dey take build the house. If the man say no gree, say make your name dey, make sure say na your pikin name na in dey that house. My people, there's so much about polygamy that we can talk, because the day that men will wake up and understand that polygamy, in as much as they say it's African culture, polygamy was also practiced in Europe. But because of the damage, it was practiced in the Western world. But because of the damage it caused, and the pain and the buying of people, how women will be using things to point their mates' food, they decided to put a stop and a law to stop polygamy. Polygamy is not just African thing. Polygamy was practiced worldwide. But it is the consequences of the decisions or the pain or the reaction of the action that you take that matters. My people, share this video, because this video is a little long. Share this video. My name is Patience, and this is Patience Vlogs. Thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye.